unless you're getting Josh Allen, you're pretty much wasting your pick if you're drafting a quarterback before like round 7.
Oh, sorry.
It's not that hard of a take. I'm serious.
Yeah, I know.
Because I have data to support it. And a lot of people, last time we posted this data, people were like, oh, you just don't know how to understand math. Blah, blah. Okay, whatever. Let's get in. I don't even care because it doesn't take a genius to understand this. So here we go. Here is all the players that had a playoff advance rate above 16%, which is the average in these leagues. You'll notice here that a lot of these guys are in the hundreds. Dak, Brock Purdy, CJ Stroud, the top 3 were all over 100. Baker Mayfield, Sam Howell, Jared Goff, Josh Dobbs and Marcus Mariota are on this list. Jordan Love, Kyle Trask is on this list, which some of these guys are like, they clearly didn't play enough last year to have an actual difference, but it still says something that their playoff advance rate is significantly higher than some of those who were going up in the
That's not even possible.
5th round or higher. Exactly. So
For real.
let's talk about this. The average ADP of all of the players who had a playoff advance rate above 16%, their average ADP is 132.9. That is the 11th round. 11th. Meaning, where were the league winning QBs coming from? You'll notice Josh Allen is 4th on this list, 26.3 at a 27% playoff rate. Why? Because Josh Allen is pretty much, when we talk about the early QB in our new draft guide, which by the way, get the draft guide with a membership. It's brand new. It looks like this. It's really, really cool. It's got positional strategy. It's got different types of draft strategies. It's got our rankings in it. It's got round by round analysis of each player. It looks amazing, and you're going to want it in your draft. You get it at flockfantasy.com/domain. The link's in the description and in the comments. Use code DOMAIN to unlock it when you sign up. If you use code DOMAIN and become a Mother Flocker, monthly, annual, whatever, you get the draft guide. Okay, we created this for you, so come and get the draft guide. Come check it out. But again, in the draft guide, we almost called the early QB strategy, which is a very viable strategy, and it has been like 2021, 2022 is more viable. We wanted to call it the Josh Allen strategy. Why? Because he is consistently here. And so the exception to this rule, where the rule being I'm not taking a quarterback before round 7, is Josh Allen. Josh Allen, if you can get him at a good enough price, he's worth the pick, for sure. Yep. But even guys like Jalen Hurts. Jalen Hurts had a good playoff advance rate last year. Lamar Jackson did as well, the guys with the rushing upside you see. However, there are plenty of guys around them that you could have gotten way cheaper and had as good of, if not a higher, playoff advance rate. And so again, let's look specifically at quarterbacks taken before round 7 and how that affected your advance rates. This is if you took a quarterback before round 7, your first quarterback. And then I want right next to it, Luke, please, like if I can have both of these up and down, whatever the frick. Quarterback one after round 6. So before round 7 or after round 6. So round 7 or later. Not only is there a significant, not only is it no advantage to take a quarterback early, it's statistically a disadvantage. Look at the difference between these two charts. We've used the roster construction analysis charts through RotoViz a lot on this channel. This is the most stark difference I've seen between two thresholds. Clear, a very, very, very clear difference here. And so basically what this tells you is you're wasting your picks on quarterbacks in fantasy leagues. You're wasting them. Quarterbacks, and this is kind of something that we probably could have backed into just using logic, right? Because if you're playing in a 10 or 12 team fantasy league like most people do, the quarterback position is not all that scarce, right? Quarterbacks all the way through 17, 18, 19 are usually productive throughout the year in an NFL season. Even given that fact, you still have so much parity with injuries in the NFL at quarterback position right now, it almost doesn't even matter. I mean, a lot of these guys on this list were injured at one point or another last year. It's why there are Josh Dobbs, Marcus Mariota, Kyle Trask on this list, right? Is because of injury. Mm-hmm. And so you could have probably backed into this logic by just assuming, okay, the scarcity of the position is a lot less than that of wide receiver, running back, and tight end is kind of the same as quarterback. With tight end and quarterback, you only have to start one. You have to start one of each, and that's it. And there are the scarcity of the position in the NFL. It is a lot more scarce than wide receiver, right? Because with wide receiver, you have 2 to 3 productive wide receivers on each team. With quarterback, you have 1. With tight end, you have 1. And so, yeah, they're more scarce. But again, you're talking about 10 to 12 teams and 20 to 21 good options to choose from. So how scarce are they actually? The answer is not all that scarce. And Nathan's going to tell you some of the guys this year that clearly demonstrate that the scarcity at quarterback is not near enough to be taking a quarterback before round 7. In fact, these are the quarterbacks we're targeting. In fact, I was talking to Nathan before this. I'm thinking about not drafting a quarterback this year in my 12 to 14 round regular redraft leagues. I might not draft a quarterback. I might draft wide receiver, running back, see if I can snipe somebody, try to make a deal, and then pick up a quarterback off waivers, because these guys are probably going to be on waivers.
Well, before I even get to that too, I'm not going to lie. A lot of people are going to say, well, you have to grab a quarterback in your draft, because if you don't, everyone else is taking backups. In a lot of your leagues, maybe people are taking backups. Do you know what inevitably happens after, heading into week 1? Do you know what happens every single time? People realize that they don't need another quarterback on their team, so they just drop them and they pick up someone else.
And it is league setting dependent.
It can be, for sure. But with these guys that we think that are around this threshold of 132, I kind of gave it a 1-ish, 1 to 2 round cushion.
Cool.
Is Trevor Lawrence? He's kind of going on the higher end. He's going, his ADP right now, according to Underdog, is 118. So he's going right at the end of the 10th round in your standard 12-team leagues. You've got Tua Tagovailoa going at 125 ADP. You have Jared Goff, Justin Herbert, Kirk Cousins, and Matt Stafford. Matt Stafford, I can tell you, comfortably last year was consistently going off waivers. Like he was on waivers, and you were able to pick him up in the middle of the season anytime, because people were kind of just picking him up when they needed him, when some player was injured or on a bye for a couple weeks, and then they just dropped them. And then you're like, okay, cool, I'll take a Stafford and get an automatic 18 points pretty comfortably. Kirk Cousins this year, I think, is going to be the guy that you really want to target in this range. And he's going at a discount because he doesn't have rushing upside. He never has. He is coming off of a torn Achilles and in a different offensive situation that, even though we like it and view it in a very positive light, it is somewhat unproven and uncertain in a way that, you don't have Justin Jefferson, the best wide receiver in the NFL. That said, I think Kirk Cousins, that's not going to diminish his passing volume. That's not going to diminish what he's capable of doing or has been capable of doing in Minnesota for the last 6 years. Like, this is a situation that you want to be involved in for a non-rushing quarterback, is Kirk Cousins' offense. It has been, and you've wanted to be involved in that offense for quite a while, and you've wanted Kirk Cousins for the last 2 to 3 years. Justin Herbert, I understand why he's going in this range, but he's another guy that is going to be very, very safe. And he does offer a little bit of a rushing premium as well. I wouldn't be surprised if they kind of try to utilize him like that this year, especially with the type of offense that they're going to run.
Greg Roman,
exactly,
as the offensive coordinator.
He's incredibly athletic and incredibly versatile, even on the ground. Jared Goff just came off of a QB 8 last year overall, QB 7, 8, 9, something like that.
Nice.
I didn't even mean to, and then I said it. I was like, oh, I get it.
You get it now, yeah.
And then Trevor Lawrence. I mean, Trevor Lawrence literally has mid QB1 upside.
Easily.
He was playing injured last year, and they fell off the second half of the season, and no, he didn't look great. He needs to get better, sure. In the 10th round, I'll capitalize on that opportunity with the upside that we know he has.
Yeah, and we talk about, the rushing upside a lot, and the rushing upside is a really good reason to draft or not to draft a quarterback.
Yes.
And with that being said, a good option, with rushing upside that's going pretty late is Jaden Daniels. And Jaden Daniels is a better value than a lot of the quarterbacks that are going high this year. Now, there are a couple things that need to be mentioned here. Number one, the market has corrected itself on quarterbacks quite a bit this year, because the top quarterbacks.
Allen's even going significantly cheaper.
What's Allen's ADP this year?
His ADP
I'm gonna check
now
it last
is
year too.
37.6. He was going 2-3 turn last year.
Last year, Josh Allen was going at the 3-2, but you had Mahomes and Hurts going above him, which, what were we thinking there? At the 2-10 and 2-11.
Yeah.
And so this year, the highest quarterback is going about a round
37.6, which is the beginning of the 4th round.
Yeah. So about a round later. And so you've seen a market adjustment with quarterback this year, which is good. It doesn't, but again, a lot of times we zig when people zag. We're going to zig hard with everybody this year, right? I mean, we're going to, we zig and they zag. We'd be zagging with everybody.
Yeah.
We're going to zag really hard with everybody this year because, again, we even think the correction needs to be more dramatic. I'm telling you this, and when I said it earlier, it was league dependent. If you're playing in a Superflex league, obviously this does not matter for you. If you're playing in a league where you have super big quarterback bonuses, obviously it's going to be different for you, right? It depends, but again, for your standard 1 QB 10 to 12 team redraft leagues, which
4-point passing touchdown,
80% of people play in.
Yeah.
Even 6 point. We talk about the guys with rushing upside. Who are the guys with the 3 highest playoff advance rates last year? Dak Prescott did not have rushing upside contribute to his production last year. Very limited. Purdy, not really either. And Stroud, not really. Those were all. What were those guys? Those were guys on high volume passing offense.
All the other premium rushing QBs got hurt or Fields underwhelmed.
Correct. All these guys were high volume passers on good offenses. The Cowboys, the 49ers, and the Texans were all they were all top 12 passing offenses in the league, right?
Yep.
And so this year, the guys who fit that bill and the guys Nathan talked about, Matt Stafford is going to be good, and I like him as the cheapest option here. Kirk Cousins is going to be at the top of this list.
Is my favorite.
Mark my words, he will be.
Yep.
He is ridiculous. The good dude's been a top 12 quarterback in fantasy for like 2 straight years, right?
Yeah.
I mean, he's playing with Bijan and Kyle Pitts and Drake London. He's been so he was a top 12 quarterback. So quarterback won 3 years before he got hurt. 3 years in a row.
He was on pace to be in top 12 before the injury. Not only was on pace,
he was on pace to be in the MVP
top 5
conversation
QB, yeah.
last year. So he's going to be on this list. And Goff is the other one. Goff was the QB7 last year, like you mentioned.
Yes.
Going to the same offense that just was, a play away from the Super Bowl. Goff's going to light it up this year. That weapons group is ridiculous. And the reason Purdy was productive last year was because Purdy has McCaffrey, Kittle, Debo, and Ayuk, right? And he just got it to those guys, and Purdy's talented, but they contributed heavily to his fantasy success because of how good they are. Goff is the same way. Gibbs, Montgomery, Amon-Ra, Sam Laporta. Heck, even if somebody like J-Mo can come into their own this year, like that's a big deal. And so again, we talk about rushing QBs, but they're actually passing QBs.
I will say last year was a bit of an outlier, at least in my opinion, just because of the landscape of the quarterback position and what was going on in the league with the outlier amount of injuries and a lot of your premium rushing quarterbacks. Now you had Lamar Jackson, I think was the only guy that stayed healthy the entire season. The rest
he was just above average.
And he was above average. So look, I still am going to stand by, if you're taking a quarterback ahead of round 10, if you're taking a quarterback rounds 1 through 10, I still don't know why you wouldn't take a rushing QB in Allen, Hurts, Lamar, AR, or Kyler, or Jaden Daniels in that range. Those are the guys that I'm always going to gravitate towards. And honestly, I'm going to gravitate more towards Allen and Murray specifically because Lamar, you have seen, has had limited passing volume at times and can limit his ceiling overall in fantasy. And Anthony Richardson is just kind of up in the air right now.
You're basically what you're doing smartly is you're making sure our logic supports Kyler Murray being a good value because
I mean, he is a good value.
I know you are because you're right. He's going to be somebody that's probably going to be at the top of this list next year. So it's not like there aren't exceptions to the rule.
Right.
So I 100% support what you're doing, but I think saying
I'm not doing it just for Kyler. I seriously if I were to take a quarterback in the first 10 rounds, I'm not touching Burrow, I'm not touching Stroud, I'm not touching Dak, and I'm not touching Love, and I'm not touching Purdy.
Well, I'm also not touching Hurts, Jackson, or probably Richardson at that price. Because again, the data shows I don't need to.
Yeah. Right.
So I don't think I'm touching
Allen or Murray.
Kyler's the only one I would touch, I think.
Or Jaden Daniels.
And I think even I would take Jaden Daniels out, and I would just say, if I can get Kyler at a really good price, I'll take him. If I can get Josh Allen, I'll take him. And outside of that, I'm just not taking a quarterback. I'll take one of these guys. I would. Kirk Cousins is who I want this year.
Oh yes, Kirk Cousins is gonna be probably my most drafted quarterback in all my fantasy leagues this year.
I bet he will. So let us know what you think of this. Let us know what you think of QB. Let us know what your QB strategy is as well. I mean, again, this is objective. The data does support the fact that quarterback is pretty irrelevant in terms of determining a fantasy team's overall ceiling or outlook. So we don't expect a ton of pushback on this again, but I want to know what has your successful QB strategy been when you've won your fantasy leagues? I'm curious. So drop that in the comments. Make sure you drop a like on the video. Make sure you subscribe if you play fantasy football, and then also go to flockfantasy.com/domain and use code domain. Choose a motherflock. It's your monthly, annual, whatever, or buy a team blueprint, one of the two. If you do one of those two things, you get our draft guide for free. So there you go. And again, the draft guide looks freaking awesome. It's going to be cool. You also get our league projections tool that Ryan Bread was just working on, which is really, really cool. We'll explain more about that in a video here soon. You also get our rankings for fantasy football, all of the above. So flockfantasy.com/domain. Like I said, use code domain to unlock it. Appreciate you guys so much. We'll see you later.